anxiety hit, I battled with that without taking any medication for quite some time. My first bout with anxiety was when my mother passed away, which was about five years ago. As a matter of fact, it was March 21st of that year, and I know that date not only because she passed on that day, but that's also the first day of spring of that year. And I recall this excitedness, the anticipation of spring coming, because spring is my favorite season. So I was always talking about how I could not wait for spring to come. Little did I know that day would be the day that my life would change forever. So she passed, and I started to have these feelings. Most often, the anxiety for me showed itself as irritability. So I went to the doctor, and she put me on some anxiety medication. I tried it for a very short amount of time where I would be driving. I can remember sitting at stoplights even though they were green, or just sitting at stop signs even though there was no traffic coming. I would just be zoned out in those moments. So I made the conscious choice and decision to get off of the anxiety medication and instead use diet and exercise to deal with the anxiety. And it worked. It worked. But life continued to happen. And my oldest son went into the military. That was one blow. Very transformative, very empowering. I was a high school dropout. So to have my son graduate from high school, something that I did not do, and going to the military, something that I very much wanted to do, it was amazing to me. It still is amazing to me. And I let my children know how proud I am of them. And I do take some credit. I take a lot of credit for the foundation that has been laid for them. But not only have I been able to inspire them, they have inspired me and challenged me in so many ways. It's definitely taken my excuses away when it comes to me fulfilling my dreams, because I often think if they can do it, then I can do it. So again, my son leaves for the military, the anxiety starts to flare up. I was still using the exercise to combat the anxiety. Then my second son graduates from high school and he leaves from college. Once that occurred, things just seemed to have broken wide open, and I lost it from there. I remember the day that my husband and I dropped him off at school. I was completely fine until we were about to leave, and then my emotions got the best of me, and I cried for several hours after that. Now, to go back to when my son left for the military, for maybe 2 weeks straight, I cried. I spent a ton of time in the bed. I was depressed. I was shattered. I think the having to get to know this new me who, yes, was a teenage mom, but that's all I known really was being a mom. And so to have our relationship change, the dynamic of our relationship, and them not needing me like they used to, them finding their own independence, which thank God they have and they are, that was a struggle for me. So the day that we dropped him off at college, I remember returning back home, and these fearful thoughts kept going through my mind. I had this energy within my body that I couldn't seem to shake, and I needed something. Some time before that, I was working a job. I was working at a gym, actually, and one of my coworkers had talked about some CBD oil and some CBD gummies and how she been using them to combat her anxiety. I made it known that I was curious because there were little signs that the anxiety wasn't gone away. But my curiosity, I just wanted to know, like, what are you using when you're having those moments, when you have those panic attacks? What are you using? So once we returned from dropping him off, I remember getting online and Googling some stores where I could purchase some CBD oil or gummies or whatever. That evening, I went and I purchased my first bottle of CBD oil. I do not remember the brand, but that's what I used to cope for some time. And it worked. For me, I noticed that if I used it multiple times within a day, it didn't seem to be as effective. But that first time in the day that I used the oil, it did seem to help with the anxiety. So I did use the oil on and off for year and a half. I used the CBD oil. Fast forward until COVID, and maybe a year after that, I started working a new job. I was working at a bank at this point in time. And those ruminating thoughts didn't seem to be under control at all. As a matter of fact, those voices became louder and louder and louder. Silently, I was suffering. And after some time, I realized that I needed to get more professional help. So I made an appointment with my doctor. And upon seeing her, I let her know what was going on with me. And she wrote me a prescription for some more anxiety pills. I let her know that one of my fears was gaining weight. So she prescribed something that she said would not cause me to gain weight. And so I started to take those pills. And the relief. I felt normal again. I did not have as strong of ruminating thoughts. I felt like I was able to grasp things again. However, over time, in the span of about 2.5, 3 months, I gained about 25 pounds. I was, for the first time in over 8 years, more than 200 pounds.